Hi there, I'm Irk, and this is my channel, Get Irked. In this video, let's take a look at investing in carbon credits with the KraneShares Carbon Strategy ETF, KRBN. Since I've talked about the KraneShares Carbon Credits ETF in a previous video, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail as to what it is. Just know that it's a way to invest in carbon credits, and as you'll see, they're very volatile, so this might not be the right investment for people with a weak stomach. I'm going to start by designing a buy-in plan of what I would do if I didn't currently hold shares in the ETF, and then I'll go over my own position and where it's come from since the last update. As you can see, carbon credits are a very volatile investment instrument as they sold off more than 36%, nearly 37% in 2022 in just 31 days. 20 of those were trading days. More recently in 2022, you can see that KRBN sold off yet again, this time after Jerome Powell terrified the markets in August, with it selling off nearly 26% from its then high. So I'm going to start by drawing a Fibonacci retracement from its all-time high to its low at the beginning of 2022 to develop resistance levels. These are levels where the ETF might find resistance on its way up and then pull back, offering us an opportunity to buy. Next, I'm going to draw a Fibonacci retracement from its low in 2022 to its more recent high to develop levels of support. These are levels where it might actually stop on the way down and pause, also offering us a buying opportunity. You can see that the price action really does correspond with a lot of these Fibonacci retracement levels, and we can use these to find levels where we might want to be able to buy a position and then add to a position after that. Seeing that the ETF is already nearly 27% off of its all-time high, I might actually be a little bit more aggressive and make my first buy relatively soon. However, given that carbon credits and the market are both incredibly volatile right now, I wouldn't start with a 50% allocation. Instead, I'd start with a 25% allocation and then save that extra 75% to make 10% buys on the way down. I might actually start my first position buy here at $40.75, the low of that day. After that, we'd move down to the Fibonacci retracement levels, and since this one is so close to our first buy, I'd skip it, and I'd go down to this day, and you can see that it regularly pulls below it, so I'd probably use the open price of this day at $38.60 as my next buy. After that, we've got the 2022 low here at $35.35, but I'd actually use the close of this day as my next buy at $35.60. From here, we pull out on the chart to find additional levels of support where we might be able to make another buy, and you can see our next Fibonacci retracement level is down here at the 127.2% retracement line at $30.85. However, looking in the past, you can see that the ETF regularly finds support above it, so I'd probably use the low of this day here and make this my next buy at $33.72. From there, I would go down to the retracement level, but you can see that we found support below that retracement level, so I'd probably use this day here at $29.64 as my next buy. From there is a bit of a gap down to the 161.8% retracement level, and you can see that we've got a lot of support above it. Now, although this day here is pretty interesting, I would go for where there's a lot more price action and probably use the low of this day here at $27.19 as my next buy. From there, we can go down to this retracement level at $25.13, but you can see that the ETF regularly pulls through it, so I'd probably use the open of this day at $24.24 as my next buy. From there, we have no additional retracement levels, so we've got to use the price action from the past, and you can see there is a significant amount of price action around these days, so I'd probably use $20.71 as my next buy. After our buy at $20.71, we would have a 95% allocation in this position, and I would save that additional 5% allocation in case it did test its all-time lows here in October of 2020, down near around $18.92. If the ETF never pulled back that low and I ended up with cash allocated to this position that I never used, I would just take that cash and put it to a new position. I wouldn't force it into this position unless it got down to my price targets. From here, let's take a look at my own position in KRBN and where it's come from since my last update. When we last left off in November of 2021, this position was relatively new in my portfolio, so I had a per share cost of $45.75. As we went through 2022, I decided that I wanted to add more to the position. Even though I knew that would raise my per share cost, I didn't know if we'd see a sell-off significantly enough that I would be able to add to it and lower my per share cost. As you can see, I made 4 additional buys early in 2022, with my first being on January 12th at $49.33. After that, I added again on the 19th at $49.87, followed by another buy on February 16th at $51.56, with my last buy on February 24th of 2022 at $49.86. The combined buys raised my per share cost 4.68% up to $47.89, and as you can see, it was a bad idea for me to buy up my cost basis when we went into the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I made a few buys during the sell-off, with the first being on March 1st at $41.64, which lowered my per share cost by 2.9% down to $46.50. A few days later, on the 7th, when KRBN bottomed, I made my next buy at $36.92, which lowered my per share cost an additional 2.06% down to $45.54. And from here, KRBN really took off. On August 16th, I took profits when the market was frothy, and I was taking profits in pretty much every single position in my portfolios, with a sale at $50.17. The sale lowered my per share cost another 2.58% down to $45.30, and it turned out it was pretty well timed because we got our sell-off after Jerome Powell came out and freaked out the markets in the end of August. I made 2 buys in September on its way down, with my first on September 1st at $42.67, which lowered my per share cost 0.55% down to $45.05. I made my most recent buy on September 7th at $39.29, and this lowered my per share cost another 1.11% down to $44.55, which represents an entire 2.62% reduction since my last update. From here, my next buy target is $37.66 above a past level of support, and my next sell target is $48.96, which is below a past level of resistance. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.